Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So here we are at the beginning of July. Today is Friday, July the 2nd, and is anyone else super excited about the new Fear Street movie that's coming out tonight? I know I am. I'm super stoked to watch it. I really hope that Netflix does a good job with it because I'm not the biggest fan of Netflix movies for the most part. I actually have to subscribe to them for a month so I can get these movies for the next couple of weeks. So let me know down below in the description if you guys are excited and you're planning on watching tonight and what you thought of it. So having said that, the reason we're here today is I wanted to go over my July TBR with you guys. I am for the most part still trying to do summer themed reading. So a lot of these books still have to do with summertime and camping and fires and all of that. I really enjoyed, for the most part, my TBR from June, which had a lot of the same books in it as well. Unfortunately, after I read the book called Campfire by Sean Sarlis, it did kind of put me into a little bit of a slump. And I'm still trying to come out of that reading slump, unfortunately. So hopefully I can get through all of these books this month. A lot of them are sequels and prequels. So I'm going to try to do the synopses as best as I can without giving anything away from the other books. So first off is a Fear Street, speaking of Fear Street. So this is the Overnight. I just hauled this in my most recent haul video. I got this from Spooky Syllables. So really super stoked to have this. And it definitely fits in with that whole teenagers going camping and all of that. So here we follow a girl named Della O'Connor, and she is part of an outdoors club. And they're supposed to go camping on Fear Island with an advisor. And something happens and the advisor is unable to go, but instead of canceling the trip, the teenagers tell their parents that the advisor is going so that they can just go and still enjoy the time together. So while they're on the island, Della meets a mysterious stranger who starts to whisper threats to her, and it forces her to do something terrible. And it says, suddenly all of her friends are involved, prisoners in a conspiracy of silence, trying to conceal the terrible truth. But someone saw what Della did, and he's threatening them all, forcing them back to Fear Island to find the evidence they forgot to bury. So even the cover of this book with all of the kids sitting around the campfire and all of that, and I'm sure it's going to have all of the cheesy teenage angst and relationships and drama in here, but super excited to read this, and especially with all the Fear Street movies coming out, it's going to fit right in there. So next up is Take Your Turn Teddy by Hayley Newlin, and I also just recently hauled this book. I was sent this book for free in return for an honest review on the channel by the author, and she did write a lovely blurb on the inside of the book. So super excited to read this one. I don't want to go too far into the synopsis because I already did so, but it's kind of like a crime thriller type novel, and it follows a young boy, obviously named Teddy, and his relationship with this dark entity that he calls the Shadow. And there's also an investigation into other missing boys as well. So seems like a crime thriller type novel with a horror sort of supernatural kind of twist to it. So totally right up my alley. So I will definitely be doing a review for you guys on the channel. So stay tuned for that one. And next up is The Ghost Road by Charis Cotter. So I've read a couple of books by this author already this year. The other books that I read though were True Paranormal Experiences and Legends of Newfoundland. I read 3 books by her already, but they were just little ones. So this one is a fiction, but it still revolves around the island of Newfoundland, which is my home province. So I think this is going to be really lovely to fit into that summertime horror because this revolves around a young girl named Ruth. And instead of traveling with her father for the summer, she decides to go back to the island of Newfoundland and spend time with family there. And she meets her cousin named Ruby, and they start to realize they have tons of stuff in common. They like the same kinds of foods, they enjoy the same kinds of things, and on top of that they both realize that they have lost their mothers at a very young age. So just reading from the back here, it says, when they find ominous information on some tombstones in the local cemetery, Ruth and Ruby start investigating their family's past and discover a curse. Twin girls are born in every generation, and they die young, leaving their children without mothers, just like Ruth and Ruby. What's more, one of the twins always has the sight, and can see the ghost road that leads to the mysterious lost settlement of Slipper's Cove. What happened there? What does this have to do with their family? And who is the ghostly presence that keeps visiting Ruth late at night? The answers lie somewhere along the ghost road, if they can only find it. So this sounds like a very kind of cozy sort of horror, middle grade, and this also revolves, like I said, around the province of Newfoundland. So I'm really looking for the nostalgia of, you know, that place, and it's a very, very unique living situation down there, especially in small communities. So really super, super looking forward to this one. And then the last physical book that I have is one that I already started. So this is Season of the Witch, How the Occult Saved Rock and Roll by Peter Bebergal. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So I first learned about this book over on Regina's channel, Regina's Haunted Library, and she spoke about it in depth as part of her rock and roll horror series. And I really, really enjoyed that video. So I'm going to leave it linked down below for you guys so you can go check it out for yourself. And I'm also reading this book as kind of a buddy read with my mom. I actually ordered 2 copies from Amazon, so I had one shipped to me and one shipped to her. And it's one of those books that you don't really want to finish it because it's just so good. And obviously this is a nonfiction book that has to do with rock and roll and how the occult kind of tied into the lyrics and the music and the thought process and everything that kind of was that era from kind of the 50s onward. And this book goes super, super in depth into the music and where rock and roll originated. And it goes really, really in depth into the music of Elvis and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all of those kinds of really the greats from that era. And something that you guys probably don't know about me is I love anything to do with the 50s and 60s, and I love anything to do with rock and roll. So my parents are from that era, and I used to spend many, many hours listening to my dad's records of Elvis and Buddy Holly and Charlie Pride and all of those kinds of greats, and he would put me on his feet and teach me how to dance to the oldies rock and roll. And then my mom's era was kind of from the 60s, so you know, it was all Knights in White Satin and Season of the Witch and all of that. So I have a really, really great love of that period, and this book is written so well. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a review of this book on the channel because Regina just talked about it so eloquently, and I really would like you guys to go watch that video. And if you are into that period and learning about rock and roll and where the roots came from and all of that, please go check out this book. It's really, really fascinating. So next up on my list is Charlotte Says, and this is the prequel to Frozen Charlotte, which I had read, I believe, back at the end of May, and I gave Frozen Charlotte a full 5 stars. I thought it was a fantastic book. It really ticked all of the boxes for me, so I was so excited to get to the prequel, and I've heard nothing but good things about this book. I've heard from several booktubers who really, really love this series, and actually Richard from Are You Into Horror just reviewed this on his channel as well, so I'm even more excited to start reading this book. So like I said, this is a prequel to Frozen Charlotte, in which the Dunvegan School for Girls was converted into a family home, and things kind of went from there. So this is from back when that particular dwelling was still a school. And here we follow a young girl named Jemima, and she suffers something really tragic, and she goes to the Isle of Skye and takes a position at the school. So it says here, then Jemima receives a box of frozen Charlotte dolls from a mysterious sender, and she begins to remember a seance with the dolls, a violent argument with her stepfather, and the inferno that destroyed her home. And when it seems that the dolls are triggering a series of accidents at the school, Jemima realizes she must stop the demonic spirits possessing the dolls, whatever it takes. And I have to tell you that these little dolls, and they're only supposed to be like little tiny things, are absolutely demonic. It has such a creep factor, and I'm really, really excited. I hope this book lives up to as much as I enjoyed the first one, because like I said, it was a 5-star read for me. So I'll definitely let you guys know my thoughts once I'm finished and whether it lives up to those expectations. And the next book I want to dive into is I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan. Now, I have watched the 90s movie I don't know, dozens of times. And I think it's going to be soon time for a rewatch. It's been years and years since I've watched it, but I never ever read the book. So I think when the movie came out, I didn't even realize that it was based on a book. So I'm sure I don't have to give much of a synopsis here. Most of you, if you're horror lovers, have probably seen the movie. So it just says, last summer, 4 terrified friends make a desperate pact to conceal a shocking secret. But now someone has learned the truth and is determined to get even. So, I mean, we all know the story, I think, but of course the book is always going to be better than the movies. So I'm super excited to read this one, and hopefully it fleshes out that entire story. And the last book or books up on this list is Kill River Volume 2 and possibly Kill River Volume 3. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the entire thing. I don't know if I'll have time, but I am just finishing up Kill River Volume 1, and I did want to continue on at this point with the series. So I'm not going to go into any synopsis because even from what I was reading on Goodreads, it kind of ruins the first book a little bit, so I don't want to say anything about it, but essentially it's a slasher novel. It's full of nostalgia from the 80s, and it follows a bunch of kids who go to an amusement park and, you know, face a killer, essentially. So the first book was full of all of the 80s nostalgia. I was smiling the whole time. I really enjoyed it. But once I'm finished with the series, again, of course, I will do a full review for you guys, but so far I'm really enjoying it. So I might get to the 2 books like I said this month, not really too sure, but I definitely will get to the second volume. So there you guys go. Those are my reading plans for July. This is my birthday month, so I wanted to pick things that were fitting right into things that I loved, and hopefully all of these books will live up to my expectations. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and leave me a question or a comment down below, because you know I love chatting with you. But until next time, stay spooky, guys.